Welcome everybody to Daytona International Speedway, where we are getting ready for the first ever ReeBok Cup Series exhibition race. This is a bit of a new thing for the channel and a bit of an experimental one at that. So let's just go over some of the formatted rules for this really quick. There will be 2 stages, 15 cars in each stage. The top 7 from each stage will advance to a 14-car finale, and if this were a points race, then the stage winner will get 1 playoff point for a stage win. So let's just go over the Heat 1 starting lineup right now. On the far right, you've got Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, and Kurt Busch. Bubba Wallace making his first start for 2311 Racing in his new team. To the left of them, you got Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez also making his first start for his new team Trackhouse Racing, and the 19 of Ryan Sieg starts his second year with Joe Gibbs. To the left of them, you've got another rookie, Noah Gragson, making his first starts for Trackhouse Racing, Eric Almirola and Cole Custer in a one-off attempt for Go Fast Racing. To the left of them, you've got Chase Briscoe, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Busch. Then on the very far left, you've got AJ Allmendinger making a one-off for Colleague, Harrison Burton in his new team at Wood Brothers, and Kyle Larson makes his return to full-time racing with Hendrick Motorsports. So let's get right into the action with Heat 1. Green flag flies, and away our racers go. The end of those safer Jenga barriers are where the cutoff line is, as you already see Noah Gragson getting out of line, trying to save it, and he falls behind that finish line, as does Bubba Wallace and Austin Cindric, Kyle Busch, and Kurt Busch. So half the field disappears practically, as does Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, all falling out of contention. They are not out of the race. However, if a lap passes before a caution, then they will lose their lap. But for the moment, things starting to settle down. The field kind of migrating left, partially due to Kyle Larson pushing, as you see Ryan Sieg getting out of shape there. If you look over to the left-hand side of the track, you'll see this bump come up every so often, and that's really scary to a lot of the drivers, so they're trying to avoid that by going right. Ryan Sieg, however, goes too far right and gets squeezed out, but he manages to come back and declogs Daniel Suarez, who was stuck at the end of the track. So they're right in prime position should anybody fall back behind that cutoff line. Eric Almirola hanging on by his nails barely, right about there. Pinched in by Cole Custer to the wall as the speeds gradually pick up here, reaching about 4 miles an hour now. Larson still pushing to the left as the field's kind of calmed down a little bit here. They know it's pretty early. There's about 7 cars in this lead pack right now, which is the amount that would transfer should the race finish like this. Ryan Sieg, however, leading in the little conga line just outside the cutoff line. Should anyone DNF. A DNF in this series is a flip or a near flip. Eric Almirola is still on the very ragged edge there. Oh, as Martin Truex Jr. takes quite a lot of the apron and nearly goes end over end, but manages to rein it in and keeps that position as the speeds pick up. We're now going about 6 miles an hour. Kyle Larson still pushing left, using that Hendrick dominance currently to control all the lanes. Oh, and Almirola goes, and that shuffles the entire field. Now Truex on the ragged edge. AJ Allmendinger gets out. Now it's just Harrison, Burton, Larson, and Truex. Truex in the very left-hand side. There goes Burton, and Truex spins onto the apron, as does Larson. And that'll bring out the caution to bring the stage to a premature end. And we can go back and take a replay and look at what happens. So this is at the very start. Noah Gragson just gets loose, gets out of line, and drops back. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Kyle Busch is getting squeezed. Bubba Wallace and Austin Cindric get squeezed too far to the right and go back. And then the 2 lines converge, and that squeezes Kyle Busch out, and Kurt gets squeezed to the left. Now this is for the stage finish. You see Almirola on the very right-hand side is squeezed all the way to the wall, gets loose, and they all just shuffle down the pack from there, bouncing out for Ryan Sieg in there. Somehow Almirola manages to keep it. And then you see AJ Allmendinger just gets loose, gets wiggled out of line. Then it's just the two Hendrick cars versus Harrison Burton, and Burton's trying his best, but you can see how much that 21 car is bobbing and weaving. Bounces off Truex once, then bounces off Larson, bounces off the wall, and goes away. Then Truex, due to that contact, spins, but at this point the caution's already out as Larson also spins. So Truex will be declared the leader at that time of caution. So we can now take a look at the results. Truex gets the win over Larson, over Ryan Sieg, Eric Almirola, Daniel Suarez, Harrison Burton, and AJ Allmendinger advance. Cole Custer, the first one out, along with Kurt and Kyle Busch. Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, and Noah Gragson unfortunately did not have good rides. And off screen, because we have Fox camera angles here, Joey Logano and Chase Briscoe both flipped, so they both do not finish this race. So then straight into heat number 2, the other 15 cars, we get a look at the starting field. On the right-hand side, you got Denny Hamlin on his return to Joe Gibbs Racing, the 41 of Kevin Harvick, and the 88 of William Byron, making the first Cup Series start for Dale Jr. and his new Cup Series team. Beside them, you've got the 3 of Austin Dillon, the 96 of Landon Castle making a one-off start for Gombros Racing, and the 24 of Justin Haley with his first start for Hendrick Motorsports. Beside them, another new starter for a new team is Anthony Alfredo for Stewart Haas Racing. Then you've got Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick. Moving further towards the left-hand side of the field, you've got Brad Keselowski in the 47, and then 2 Petty GMS cars with Eric Jones and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with a part-team deal. Then you've got rookie Grant Enfinger in the 6, the 12 of Ryan Blaney, and the 20 of Christopher Bell. So we'll get straight back into the racing action with heat number 2, and the green flag is out, and Christopher Bell does not go. Not sure if that's a Toyota strategy or just a lack of pace from Bell, but as you see, Brad Keselowski getting out of shape. Ooh, Ryan Blaney also falls back on that bump. We didn't see a lot of it, courtesy of Kyle Larson in Heat 1, but that bump is very dangerous for a lot of drivers' races. As you see, Grant Enfinger, though, manages to rein it in and fall behind Denny Hamlin there in the right-hand side. That's actually a really good position for Grant. But the left-hand side is getting feisty as the Petty GMS teammates of Ricky Stenhouse and Eric Jones hit each other once, twice, perhaps, as Jones is on that ragged bump and jolts to the right yet again. So Jones being very erratic at the moment with that bump, and this time he gets so much of the apron, he's almost spun on that apron, just barely holding on at the moment due to the low speeds, as Brad Keselowski almost falls off of the racing line. But yeah, Eric Jones racing very aggressively with his teammate Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And Jones on that very ragged edge. I'm not sure if he has a puncture or if he... Yep, he did have a puncture because around he goes, and that will bring out the caution. So we'll get back to racing. Jones pitted and replaced a tire, and Bell got his lap back, but didn't make very much of it. Immediately drops to the back yet again. And on this time, you see the left pack, again, much more unstable compared to the right-hand side. The right-hand side has been very locked down currently. As you see Ryan Blaney right now in the hot seat, he's getting shoved towards that bump, probably by Brad Keselowski. Oh, a big hit for Blaney as... Oh, wow. Grant Enfinger almost flips, and now Eric Jones does flip, and that will be a DNF. So if we look at a replay, you see a big bump for Blaney comes right about here. Yeah, wow. Front end of Blaney's car gets lifted off, then that shuffles Grant Enfinger onto that bump. He nearly goes over, all the way over on the back, and then That puts Eric Jones on the hot seat, and he does go all the way over. So that's unfortunate. That will be a DNF for Eric Jones, who looked very, very racy early on here. But we get back to the green flag action. Christopher Bell again drops to the back. This time the left-hand side is only 3 cars, so it's a little less feisty. And perhaps they're just a little wary of that bump now, seeing what's happened to a few of their number on the left-hand side. As Brad gets out of line and manages to keep it, just barely keeps it on the racing surface. He's moving from left to right quite a lot, experimenting, as he goes to the right towards Tyler Reddick and moves back towards Ricky Stenhouse. And it seems like Blaney's managed, contact, and away goes Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Tyler Reddick. That was due to Brad Keselowski's experimentation. He went left, right, and bounced off each other. Now Ryan Blaney looks really Reddick. He's on the bump, and he flips. Wow. Ryan Blaney gets tossed, and that will be another caution, so we can go back and look at a replay. So look at this. You see Brad gets too far to the right and bounces off both Reddick and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Just bounces back and forth, and that takes them both back out. Neither of them flipped, so they will not DNF. They will be able to restart with the pack on this caution. But then you see Blaney, lots of oscillation as the speeds pick up here. Just moves further and further left and then gets on that bump. And as soon as the bump hits him, flips him end over end. All right, and back to green flag racing here. Only a few laps to go left in the stage, as Christopher Bell had it for a second, but now he drops back, so clearly that 20 team needs some improvements because there's no time for them to be dropping back at the end of the stage here. As the speed's picking more and more up, Denny Hamlin looks a lot more unsettled. He's in the same position Eric Almirola was in Heat 1 this time. As opposed to earlier, he was running... Brad Keselowski gets loose on the left-hand side. Just holding on in between the two people who he spun. Manages to rein it in and hold on to that spot. But now you see as the speeds pick up, the car's weaving a lot more. Ducking left and right. Tyler Reddick also getting a lot more unsettled. As the speeds continue to pick up, now reaching about 6 miles per hour. As, they get loose, and there's the field. All gets loose. All shuffles out. Now it's just Chase Elliott and Anthony Alfredo battling for the stage win. Alfredo coming back to neck. No. And Elliott clears himself, and Elliott gets ahead. And that'll bring the caution out because that will be the stage end. So if we look at back to a replay here, here's what happened as the pace picks up. Hamlin gets squeezed out too far to the right and brings Harvick, and then they all shuffle down. Keselowski unsettles the left-hand side as a couple big hits, and then it just leaves Elliott and Alfredo, and you see how Elliott looks more unsettled here, but he's really just trying to get clear of Alfredo and does do that and then slams on the brakes. That causes Alfredo to check up. And ultimately, Alfredo falls back behind this line of 5 or so cars. So we get a look at how that stage finished. Chase Elliott does get the win over Tyler Reddick, Justin Haley, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Denny Hamlin, and gets the last transfer spot. And Anthony Alfredo, after having such a promising run there towards the end, gets knocked out along with Landon Castle, Brad Keselowski, William Byron, and Christopher Bell. And Grant Enfinger and does not finish, along with Ryan Blaney. On to the final then. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, and Kevin Harvick on the right-hand side. Then you've got Martin Truex Jr., and Colic Racing's A.J. Allmendinger on this one-off deal. He's doing really well. Then Chase Elliott as well. And Austin Dillon. Daniel Suarez in his debut for Trackhouse doing really well. He's made it into the final. And Eric Almirola. Ryan Sieg with a good run so far. Harrison Burton also in his first start for Wood Brothers. And Justin Haley in his first start for Hendrick. And then only 2 people on the final row this time. It's Tyler Reddick and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on a part-time deal, doing really well as well. So into the final, this will be slightly longer, but similar in time length. So under green flag, Ricky Stenhouse gets on that bump and moves with Tyler Reddick over to the right. They try to link up, can't. Stenhouse falls into line. Reddick falls all the way back. And you see Justin Haley very unsettled on that left-hand side. He's kind of stuck out in the open, and that's kind of disturbing his car's aero capabilities at the moment. That's a 2018 chassis that he's running right now, so definitely not top-tier equipment you would expect from Hendrick, as lots of discord within the middle of the pack right now, kind of spawned by Eric Almirola at the moment, as there's Tyler Reddick, drops right in behind the cutoff line, so smart plays from Reddick to recover from that, as Haley gets more and more loose, venturing closer and closer to that ever-dangerous bump that can send cars flying as the speeds pick up, now going about 3 miles an hour, and more uncertainty within the left-hand side as Haley moves and does get that move to work, just not in the way he wanted to. He drops back into the queue, as does Eric Almirola. And Almirola goes flipping. We don't have a camera on it, but Almirola is crashed. And we'll take a look at the replay. You can't... Sorry, we have Fox camera angles here, so we can't see the flip. But you see he just gets loose, bounces off Ryan Sieg, bounces off Daniel Suarez, tries to save it by falling in line with Tyler Reddick. Doesn't, bounces back across the track and goes for a flip. So back to green flag racing after that caution. Tyler Reddick falls back initially, tries to slot in, doesn't, misses, and falls back all the way to the back end of the field as the speeds gradually pick up. Ricky Stenhouse looks kind of uncertain, but he's had a really good run so far for the Petty GMS team. Stenhouse currently racing in the Truck Series for GMS, as Harrison Burton makes his first start for Wood Brothers. He's doing pretty well today so far, too. Moves over from Go Fast Racing, so a slight upgrade in equipment and a move to the Penske camp, so to speak, as you see some contact between Stenhouse and Haley, battling door to door as Ryan Sieg gets very, very loose in the center of the pack. The right-hand side always looks strong here, as is apparent. Denny Hamlin leading that kind of strong central right as it goes, as is Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson's been really trying to push towards that right as he started to the left for his heat, but now he can kind of just sit in and cruise control, as still door dinging as, wow, Justin Haley gets flipped over, and you see he was door banging with Ricky Stenhouse here and just gets bumped a little bit too much onto that bump, gets sent flying. That's probably the biggest flip we've seen today. So we'll get back to growing with green flag racing, unfortunately without Justin Haley, as he will DNF. Tyler Reddick falls back once again, trying to look for a spot opening this time. Nope, can't find it. Drops to the back. As you see, Kevin Harvick, with this restart, they kind of shuffled around the pack a little bit. And Kevin Harvick now over on the left side, along with Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin. And you see Harvick, without restraint, is now pushing. He pushes Stenhouse to the left so much that Stenhouse has to bail out. And Stenhouse, in turn, falls back. And, as Harvick goes off. Did Harvick flip? I do believe Harvick has flipped over, so that'll be another caution. And we'll get back to green flag racing here. So without Kevin Harvick as well. And, Ricky Stenhouse gets out of shape on the right-hand side. Gets pinched by Tyler Reddick. They both fall back. Now it's Martin Truex Jr. on the most right-hand side. On the left, you've got Kyle Larson, who, as always, is pushing to the right, along with Denny Hamlin. So Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin seem to be a power pair at the current moment. And you're just wondering at this point, it seems like Hendrick has the fastest cars. They've gotten all 4 cars in their final. Justin Haley, however, out of the race, but it's just a question of which Hendrick car has what it takes. They've won both stages so far, with Martin Truex Jr. winning Stage 1 and Chase Elliott winning Stage 2. Right now, Truex, however, is a very precarious position on the right-hand side, as they're now going about 4 miles an hour and starting to creep upwards of that, as the pack is very stable at the moment. They know that there's still a little bit to go in this race, so they're saving what they have for the last end part of this race. This has been a really good run so far for AJ Allmendinger, making that one-off start for Colleague Racing. He managed to pre-qualify along with Castle and Stenhouse and Custer. So one of 4 part-time teams within this race, as you see Burton getting out of sync for a second, drops right back into sync, as the speeds are now going fastest we've seen all day, upwards of 6 miles an hour. And you can see eventually all hell is about to break loose, as it does. Wow, Larson, big hit into the side. Hamlin spins. Wow, big hit into the safer barrier for Burton. That leaves Dillon and Elliott and Hamlin and Sieg spin down the racetrack, and that'll bring out a big caution, which is needed. If we look back at a replay, you see Hamlin gets on the apron, gets loose, doors Larson. Then Burton all by himself gets loose, tries to save it, instead smacks into the right-hand side safer barrier. Suarez darts to the left as Truex and the Colleague Racing car fall back, and Austin Dillon tries to clear himself on Chase Elliott. Can't do it, as Sieg self-spins by himself. Just the speed's getting too much on these cars. So we'll get back to a final green-white checkered here to go, as everyone off to a cleaner start, except for Austin Dillon, who does fall back. And Denny Hamlin right on where that bump would be. He manages to save it instead of flipping, but he's over the left as the right-hand side disintegrates. They're all getting shoved into the chaffer, as Daniel Suarez, I do believe, will pick up this win because he crossed that safer barrier line last. So aggressive driving for Daniel Suarez, I do believe, will win him this race. We'll go back to the moment of caution to determine who actually won. Yep, and Daniel Suarez is your winner. He wins over Harrison Burton with a really good run and Denny Hamlin. It's quite a surprise for Suarez, his first start with Trackhouse Racing and his first win. And there you see the final results of the entire race weekend. You've got Suarez winning, Chase Elliott winning Stage 2, and Martin Truex Jr. winning Stage 1. But Suarez has a lot to celebrate, and there you see your DNFs. A lot of fast cars, unfortunately, could not get over themselves, so to speak, and ended up flipping or DNFing. So that'll bring us to a close, and thanks everybody for watching this video. If you did, please feel free to drop feedback in the comment section, and I think I'll probably start doing this as a regular series, yeah, and I'll see, what people tend to like, whether signups are a good thing. Bye.